while back, Dick Barry and I agreed that what really matters is what you like, not what you are like. Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.
Welcome to These Things Matter.
The podcast where we talk about pop culture autobiographically.
I'm Kevin O'Brien.
And I'm Taylor Gonda.
And we are talking about the Grateful Dead today,
Yes,
Taylor.
we are.
Much to our chagrin.
Well,
because neither one of us
shouldn't start out that way. We shouldn't have a
No,
bias
I'm laying it out right away. I'm putting it on the table. And if anybody that's listened to the show before, when we did the Jam Bands episode, we talked about the Dead a little bit.
We did.
And I do not dislike the Dead as much as I did before that show. So
Sure.
who knows? Maybe we'll become full Deadheads.
Full-fledged Deadheads.
Oh, man. Let's
I mean, there's no band to follow anymore, so what do? We just wander? We just wander around.
Go see Phil Lesh, get together with some friends, maybe? I'm not too sure. But I'm very thrilled for our guest today, though, to talk about the Grateful Dead. This guy is in town visiting us all the way from Los Angeles, California. It's Andy Kindler, comedian Andy Kindler.
Thank you. I like that build-up.
Right?
I try to make
you know
you sound
saying?
He's a radio
you're
man.
a big deal, man.
Well, let's not kid ourselves. It's a what a coup that the city was able to bring me in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm adjusting this like I'm on stage. I'm sorry for that. Any extraneous sound that you hear is either me futzering with the mic, or it's my soul creaking. Come on. That's the structure of a joke without humor.
All right. Well, before we...
That's my thing. I'm the guy who points out why it wasn't funny.
Sure. Yeah, there you go.
I don't know why I'm doing my DJ guy.
Because you got the headphones on.
That's right. You can't help
it's
it.
Official.
It's just the way it works. Before we did the show, you said you were just going to come in, riff it up.
Oh, I don't care what you. I said I don't care what you guys have in mind. It's Riff Central. It's Robin Williams takes overtime.
So I'll just be Jay Leno, just staring at you blankly as you just go on for 20 minutes at a time.
Jay Leno. Does he stare blankly?
Well, that's what it always was. Like you'd say two words, and Robin Williams would go off for like 5 minutes, and you're just like, okay.
Well, I was just focusing on the fact that Jay Leno has no
soul
sense of. Well, that we know. He also has a car that's run. It's powered by all the energy produced by all the dreams he's crushed.
Are you?
He has one that runs on.
Is one of your dreams in there?
This one runs on paper towels. Cooking oil.
No. He has no knowledge. He has no interest in life.
Yeah.
Everybody who knows him knows he doesn't like. He eats the same hamburger every day. He doesn't care
Does he
about
go
music.
to the same place every day to eat or something like that? Is he one of those dudes?
He might, but he doesn't. He doesn't like music. He doesn't like sports.
I don't understand that. This is why we have this podcast. The podcast is all about like what you like. Like it's important.
So don't book Jay Leno, I guess.
Right.
No, because I know what the fear is. Because seriously, if you did not derail this, it would be me complaining about Leno again, which people can find cataloged on podcasts.
I mean, we could just do the episode about Leno, but that's not. We don't want to do.
No,
things
we don't.
about
Why
stuff
bring
we
us
hate.
down?
Yeah, come on, man.
Exactly.
Come
well,
on.
you love.
Do you have any headlines? Do you have any headlines that you've brought in?
Oh man, I totally left him in the car.
Dude,
Okay.
messed up.
Man.
I used to search for those when I was a kid, and that was happening. I was like,
What
I
do you
gotta
mean
find.
when you were a kid? When you were a kid, you were watching Leno?
Yeah.
Oh man,
God.
I thought you were a Letterman.
No, of course I'm a Letterman gal.
No,
Of
I'm
course.
just thinking of the age involved. Why
Yeah.
am I getting older? Why am I getting older? And people are born they were born in like 1990.
I don't mean
what's
to,
happening.
I was born in 1986. Andy.
That makes me sick.
Well,
81. That's
Yeah.
not so bad. right?
81 makes me even
babies
more
of the
ill.
80s right here.
I mean, what do you know from Reagan's second term?
It's true. It's true.
Not a lot.
It's true. He likes to
He
say
hated
does,
poor
though.
people, I guess. That's what I know.
Well, he had some bad experiences. He's not as bad as the current crop of like your George W. Let's not do this because I swear to God, don't get me started on my ageism.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's not ageism. I'm mostly put down my own age.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how about we're all the same age for the next hour?
Don't
and then
don't patronize me.
Well, and part of the reason. Okay, let's say this. The topic is the Grateful Dead. You wouldn't know what you know about the Grateful Dead if you weren't the age that you are, perhaps.
Well,
right?
that is absolutely true because
Right.
when people say fish, I say go fish. I have nothing prepared. But when people I don't even know a fish. I don't even have the energy. First of all, fish has no lyrics. They say.
I mean, they do.
The jams are
but
way long.
Yeah. Well, the Grateful Dead. One of the things that makes the Grateful Dead so amazing is that they have Robert Hunter, who's written the lyrics. There's no better. I'm guilty of hyperbole.
No, this is what.
But
But there's
Perfect
no
show.
better
Hyperbole
lyricist.
show.
There's no better lyricist in the world
Wow.
than Robert Hunter.
Why do you say that? What's so
Because
great
some
about
of the Easy. I'm not. What is it? Crossfire?
I'm not.
What is this? What are you from the left?
I'm just trying
What
to
are you, a naysayer? Well, like if you listen to the song "U.S. Blues," which
Okay.
is all about the kind of what he does is he kind of and it goes along with this the two parts of it. First of all, I don't even know where to start, but I love Jerry Garcia's voice. I grew up as a huge Dylan. Not only do I love Dylan, I love the way he sings, and it's like to me, if one more person talks about that they like his songs, but they don't like the way, to me, I love that voice that's not polished,
It's
and I've
iconic,
always
too.
loved that kind of voice. So, and I was a musician. I am a musician before I was a comedian, and I don't know why I say it that way. I'm still a musician, but I'm very sensitive. Unlike comedy, where I can be, like I can be insecure about everything, but I kind of know. After all these years, I'm able to step aside from myself and say, I know what I'm doing comedically. Whereas I never felt that way with music, and I'm much more sensitive about it.
Yeah.
Like
It's much more personal for you.
well, to me, like the bravery that someone like Dylan puts out there, or just the idea that he changes what he wants to do, I find that amazing. So I relate to that. Not that I do that. I'm not. Anything you say about yourself sounds terrible, but I hope to do that kind of thing with comedy. Is not doing the same set twice and all this kind of thing.
Sure.
But to be brave with someone who sang that way, to me, reminds me of how affected I was, and it's probably separate even from just my voice. Whatever it was when I was developing, that I got very sensitive about certain things or being perceived certain ways. Maybe all kids have this same thing. Whereas everybody in my family was funny, so that was never. I'm not saying we're the funniest family, but we were voted funniest family.
How many years running?
America's Got Funny Families. I know you've seen that show.
Are you hosting that on NBC this
I
summer?
am not hosting because they would not meet my quote. And my quote was, "I don't like this show." That's a variant of a joke I've been doing for years because Margaret Cho many years ago said to me, "I will do college." She goes, "I won't do colleges unless they meet my quote." And my response was, "I won't do colleges unless they meet my quote." And my quote is, "I won't do very well at your college, but afterwards you must still pay me." Unquote.
Just as long as you do your time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just fill the hour.
Yeah. So, that's right. Do my time. That's all I care about, folks. I'm not up here to amuse myself. So,
So comedy wasn't like a different thing, but music was very
so
stretched for you.
Right. But beyond my own insecurities, very early, for some reason, I got into. Have you seen The Last Waltz?
Yeah.
Most people have seen it. Okay, so when that scene where Martin Scorsese, not the Neil Diamond chunk, but there's a scene in there.
The literal chunk on his nose.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny.
I think that was Neil Young, actually.
Neil Young. That's right.
Had
Neil
the-
Young. They
I
said
would have liked to see Neil Diamond in that though too. Bring a different energy.
Well, when you find out like the backstory about Robbie Robertson wanted to make an album, I forgot. There's a whole bunch of shenanigans,
yeah.
but when Scorsese is interviewing Levon Helm and he's talking about how it's, rock and roll is country, and I always early on, not maybe from like an 8-year-old, but early on I was very attracted to country type music. So that's what Dylan was pulling from that. But I didn't probably know it was, I grew up in Queens, so it wasn't like I went to a honky tonk, But then that's also what's great about the Dead is they do a lot of Hank Williams songs, they celebrate a lot of country music, they popularize it like for people like me, and that's what part of rock and roll is. But because of big hair country and like people's image of top 40 country, people are embarrassed to, or also I think there's an elitism. About like there was a bit, and Louis C.K. used to do this bit. He only did it once or twice about how why is it okay that we call people white trash? How does that become okay? Like, oh yeah, you idiot who can't afford to live in anything better than why are your campers not going anywhere? Because you can't afford to have a better place, you moron. I mean, it's like we think it's okay to make fun of this group. They're like the last group. But that's also how we feel about people from the South sometimes, or how we judging people from their accent. Whereas I was always kind of drawn to that, I think it goes back, like with Van Morrison I was really into, and it's kind of folk music is where it maybe starts.
Which Dylan always said it was just folk music. It was just, it wasn't like protest songs or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I just
spilled
on myself.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. No, that thing about Dylan was that he never, if if he had stuck as a protest singer, he would not have been happy.
So do you think growing up in New York, you were drawn to this style of music because it was so different from what you were surrounded by at the time? Like, I think because I grew up in Nebraska and all I wanted to do was live in New York and listen to punk music and stuff. But being there, were you just because it was different from what you were surrounded by?
Well, kids, let me tell you something. Unfortunately, I remember watching the Beatles and Ed Sullivan, kids.
What do you mean, unfortunately?
Because
That's awesome.
it shows that I'm old. I want to be young.
You're
I was
young
told.
at heart, Andy.
I was told after 50 to go back the other way.
Really?
But yeah, that'd be
Was
30.
it some magical old man?
Yes.
He handed you a watch. It sounds
Said,
like
"Look."
a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, which is also an older reference now. No, but
We're full of older references on this show.
I'm
We
an
are.
old soul.
Yeah.
I believe that. Well, when I was a kid, so I was part of my sister is 5 years older than me, so she was right in the middle of the Beatles. I was the youngest, so she was right in the middle of the Beatlemania. I mean, I remember even when I was a little kid watching A Hard Day's Night and thinking it was like a documentary or whatever. So I grew up with a very specific, I think a very exciting time in music was if I grew up in the 60s, still the radio was amazing. So my first albums were like I love the Beatles, and then I had the Doors, Waiting for the Sun, because I was talking to you before the podcast about how it's hard to listen to the Doors after Tom Sharpling takes them apart. But then I had the Cream, and I had Neil Young's, which is 1970. So I had these. I didn't have anything specific like that where I heard. I don't know where. I think it was through rock and roll. Where I through the Grateful Dead and those people.
So it started with rock and roll, and then you kind of drifted more towards folk.
I'm hoping to get you able to condense this. This isn't going to be how I sound in the final product.
You're
right?
killing it. No, you're doing
okay.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, I could take stuff out, but I don't want to.
No. I'm kidding. Because people love my backtracking, my fumfering.
It's part of your charm, right?
If I was articulate, do you think I would have such a big following or small something?
Small, big following.
Yeah, it's the biggest small. It's like Reno. It's the biggest small following in the world.
That's what I have.
Did your band sound like the Dead? Did your band sound like any of those?
Well, yes, exactly. Because I got into I went to school upstate New York, and this was a time period when which is also. I have ADD, so I mean that's like become everyone's eraser excuse. But I will change my I will go into a million directions. But one of the things is, and also why the Dead was so influential was I went to school in the mid 70s, so we were still very influenced by the 60s. So like all the drugs on campus were hallucinogenic drugs, and they were mushrooms. And in my case, I did breathing exercises.
That was your hallucinogenic drug?
Yes.
That's
according because maybe
that sounds like Taylor's drugs. You're just
yeah. Well, my mom went to the Maharishi Institute in Ohio for like a semester, a year, something like that.
The Maharishi Mahesh Yogi.
Yeah, to learn transcendental meditation.
Oh yeah,
meditation.
Cool.
Yeah. So
and that's supposed to be great. Now, do you do TM as well?
I don't, but she continuously tries to get me to do it. Now, classes these days are like over $1,000, so that's maybe part of the reason.
Yeah, I don't think you need to spend that much to meditate. Yeah.
She didn't really. It was.
She was
early
grandmothered in.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So what I was saying though too was that the desire to get high was also part of what I was drawn to. So the Grateful Dead, I really was obsessed with Ken Kesey's book Cuckoo's Nest, and then the book that Tom Wolfe wrote called The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test.
Sure.
And I became I know you can say, Andy, why didn't you make this the topic? But I became obsessed with the whole Kerouac thing and the whole San Francisco thing, but especially Kesey, because I love this idea of I've read, and not to say I'm an expert, but I just am crazy about any kind of drug literature. So you read all about Leary, you read all about these different things. So when you would go to a Grateful Dead concert, there really was. Well, first of all, you would go there, and this would be a typical conversation. Someone would open their hand, there'd be pills in there, and they'd say, "Take 3, they're weak." Like you didn't even know you were
didn't
taking.
know what they were.
And of course, my argument would be, I could never have been in Woodstock, but if you're going to be at any of those places, you have to be on some kind of drugs. You can't go.
Oh, sure.
You cannot go to could you imagine going to whatever the hell the festivals are? What are they called? Rambo? What are they?
The Rambo Festival.
Bonnaroo.
Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
What
I
is
went
it?
one time.
Yeah.
And
you were high, right?
No, I didn't do drugs at the time, and it was one of the worst music festivals I've ever been to.
Yeah, well,
and now I started doing drugs, and I would love to go back to Bonnaroo now because they're everywhere too. Like you don't even have to pay for them half the time. Like you just got a friend who's like, "Hey man, you want some?" Like a buddy of mine at Bonnaroo. This was like 7 years ago. We were going back to our camp. He had a beer in his hand. It was like 3 a.m. drinking it. Some guy just was like flecked acid into his beer as we walked by.
That's not good.
And
I don't like that.
and he was like, "What the hell was that?" And he's like, "It's acid, man." And then he's like, just threw the beer away because they didn't want to start tripping at 3 a.m.
I think that's a wise thing. First of all, that's not. I'm no expert in that way, but I don't think that's the way you get a proper dose.
Yeah.
Acid
just
to flick your hand.
Just
cool, man.
Yeah, start drip. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Help somebody find their spirit animal? Like,
Well, it's so concentrated. I mean, the actual one of the reasons why LSD in the old days was an easy drug to buy and transport was it's literally colorless, odorless, and very concentrated. So that's how they made those blotter acids. They just put one drop on there. I'm not involved in that business. So,
but you were at one point.
No, I never
Not
was
the business, but
oh no, I was in,
the
the character of Andy Kindler did I did all those everything. I was very much interested. Well, one of the things I was going to say was that's why, like on Twitter today and just in general, I'm amazed that I keep getting in these arguments with people, like, because I hate the angry atheist movement. I mean, I hate it with a passion, and especially when it's someone like Bill Maher who then extends it and makes it worse and goes, not only are all religions are bad, but the Muslims are the worst. And it's like, and it's like, Maya Angelou 3 days ago, she says, if you listen, keep your voice quiet, then you maybe hear the voice of God. I never had a bad, well, maybe because I was brought up Jewish and not like a real conservative, Orthodox Jewish person. I never had a problem with the word God not meaning something specific.
Sure. So
it seems like we're fighting the same fight with like Ricky Gervais and all these people. Yeah. And we've gone through this thing where they're saying that there's no spirit. They don't want, these people want to believe that the only thing you should trust in is what science produces. So, I mean, how does that affect enjoying art? How does that, I'm talking about this other side of your brain. I'm not trying to prove it's anything. I obviously don't know what it is, but I think you can tap into this thing through comedy, music, art, dancing,
LSD.
Breathing, LSD,
whatever it takes.
And and that's what originally the Going to the Dead concerts were, because we all were high and we loved the band. And I'm not just saying because I was high, I love the band, but
some would,
but you can't separate the band from the fact that for what they did, there was nobody doing what they did, and it was a philosophy that was kind of like jazz, but it wasn't like jazz at all. And
it was a jazz approach, but it wasn't jazz in style, is what you're saying.
Well, when a lot of people like to identify Jerry Garcia as the main person, which I don't think you really can do, but Garcia had such an extensive knowledge of bluegrass. He could play anything. If you heard him live, which I got to hear, his guitar soloing was just transcendent. The way he would hit a note and the way the note would ring out. I love his voice too. And I can listen to recordings right here. He's flat or whatever. I don't care. And so his combination of Robert Hunter lyrics and Jerry singing is like sublime.
So what came first for you? Was it the Dead or the drugs? Did you take drugs first and then hear the Dead, or did you hear the Dead and then during this period of time? Yeah, like what was the thing that got you into him right away? Was it because it was the drug culture and you were already doing that? It was
the group of friends I met when I went upstate. I went to school in Binghamton.
Okay.
So the group of friends I just happened to meet was this one guy, Ira, and he I won't give his last name out,
okay.
But he was into them. And so I got into this with this group of people who just happened to love them. And so, but it wasn't a conscious choice. I mean, I couldn't have made there wouldn't have been anything cliche about doing it then because
Sure,
it was
sure.
still.
Yeah.
You can argue that Europe '72 and that those are the height of it, but not really because the concerts I saw were amazing too. But so it was very organic in that sense.
Okay.
But certainly, I started smoking. I started. My character started smoking.
The
early,
character
when
of Andy Kindler.
when I could get high, and that was just whatever music was playing at the
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
Cool.
And all music sounded more spirit. They sounded. The lyrics were more. Like George Harrison was so afraid of. He was afraid of saying "My Sweet Lord" because he knew that people would take it.
Sure.
But the fact that there was more, and maybe from gospel, from these things, to me, like when you hear the Southern churches and them singing, it's like none of that puts me off. All of that speaks of spirituality.
Sure.
So I think it was kind of a quest thing where the music was part of everything else I was looking for at that time, and also
Yeah, yeah.
trying to find out what I wanted to do, which was at that time music, but.
Yeah.
And being
I mean, I it's funny because we had a jam band episode, and our friend AJ Finney, who talked about why he loves the Dead and Fish and all that. It's for him as much to do with the culture of it as it is with the music. Like the music is kind of the conduit, it's kind of the thing that puts you in that place with those people who are similarly minded. I don't know if is that the same for you, or did you feel like you could have sat and listened to those records all day long and never have gone and seen them live and felt just as good?
Well, I think that having seen them live, I think that because I would argue that their studio albums like Working Man's Dead and American Beauty are up there with any studio album, so they're amazing. But I think they were it's like almost like I got to see Bill Hicks live, and there's certain things that you just makes it a more deeper experience. So having seen, but I don't think it was the culture. In other words, like I had long hair until it wasn't popular, but that wasn't what it was. It just, the long hair for whatever was, I always think like it's funny, but I think it's hilarious when like Daniel Clowes or people like one generation younger than me like slam hippies.
Yeah.
Because like my experience was the opposite. I loved hippies. I loved the whole, because I was actually in a more idealistic view of the 60s because I wasn't going through, they talk about like the Summer of Love, and then they talk about how bad Haight-Ashbury got.
Yeah.
I was more like Martin Luther King. I knew he was killed, and I knew Kennedy was when he was killed, and that was all horrible. But I was also just like celebrating the 60s kind of in the 70s, and
Sure,
kind
sure.
of so
You're trying to keep it going a little bit longer, is what you're saying. Like
Yeah,
you
and
missed the wave initially, so it's like, well, let's just make our own 60s and the 70s now.
Well, not only that, but I also felt for a long time, which is I think is something I felt for my whole life in a way which is ridiculous. Actually, it was like I missed the period, the whole long time period.
I felt like that for most of my life, where it's like, I missed all the cool stuff already. Like it already happened.
Yeah, and that's such a myth because, like, I was part of the alternative comedy scene in L.A. So when I look back on it, oh man, it's like, wow, what a magical thing, and all the people, Bob Odenkirk and Mr. Show. But when I was going through, it was painful because it was I loved all those guys, but there was still a lot of competition, and it was
Sure.
like, so you always think like, oh well, when Joni Mitchell and all those Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young were living in Laurel Canyon, that was an idea. But the truth is that it was a crazy, amazing time.
Yeah. Were you aware, like, whether it be in L.A. in the early to mid-'90s or, being in bands and into the Grateful Dead in the 70s, did you have an awareness of, like, living in that moment, though? Were you aware that you were a part of something special or witnessing something special, or was it just sort of like, this sucks, I wish I could? You know what I mean? I wish it were the 60s still and I could have been there.
Well, there's a couple of things that work into that. When I got out of college, I'll never forget the last day of college because we were all in altered states. And sometimes when you're in an altered state, you're like, everything was like heavy to us. Division Street, isn't that for real? And it was all that kind of crap. But all of my friends, me and my one friend were like just so having the greatest time. And all of our friends were like, it's over, we did it, it's over. And we were like, what the hell is wrong with you people? This is the greatest. I had the greatest time in college.
No, sure.
The greatest time. So, but that's not everyone's collegiate experience.
Sure.
And I was in plays, and you go down to the place where you see if you got the part,
Yeah.
And so when I left college and I came out, I drove out to L.A. because I did theater in college, and a director friend who was he came. I was for me, depressed, really depressed for a few years. Not like
because you weren't in
clinically-
that fantasy land anymore
Yes,
that
yeah.
college kind of created for you. Were you like, because I mean, I had a pretty similar college experience as well, where I thought it was awesome, and I thought I was awesome, and everything was just great, and then all of a sudden I was like 22, and it's like, oh God, I got to work in a bar and a liquor store now. This is not like,
And
you get
I-
hit in the face with reality pretty hard if you are so into that college
And
environment.
I think that's true of anybody coming. I think there's very few people who have it differently. Like, oh, I loved my 20s, and even if you get tremendous amount of success, you can still be. Doesn't mean that you're not going to have pain and everything. But also, I felt like the 70s were kind of the tail. Like I didn't see Hendrix and his, didn't see a lot of that stuff happen. So when I got to LA, the new wave movement really was. I love it. Like I was obsessed with Talking Heads. I loved the Blasters. I loved the Go-Go's. I loved that whole the Clash. I loved all that music.
yeah.
So that seemed like a. And then you realize that it can't all be one big movement. It's got to happen.
Well, I mean, it all starts organically. It's just that I think now with the history of rock and roll and how ingrained it is,
Rolling
like,
Stone puts it all into
Yeah,
nice little
yeah.
sections of like, and then this occurred, and then
yeah,
that
exactly.
occurred.
And then you're like, so when I grew up reading all that kind of stuff, so it's kind of hard to not try and size up the moment that you're in and how it's going to fit into that kind of historical narrative, But it all starts organically. It all starts from just like some guys hanging out in San Francisco jamming, kind of fucked up one night, and then now it becomes this huge iconic part of American culture eventually.
Yeah, and I think the problem for our society in general is this throwing the baby out with the bathwater thing. Because I think, like when I get angry at Bill Maher, I think there's a certain amount of xenophobia to what he does. It's like, look at these people doing these strange rituals. But I'm very into this woman. Her name is Karen Armstrong, and she writes about religion all the time. And she says that a lot of the rituals in religion, like even in the Catholic Church, they're meant to get you high. The incense, the music.
Yeah.
And so I think we've kind of lost that in everyone's life. You kind of like that Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss, and to be in the moment. And I'm not saying I can do these things, but I'm saying that my desire to have lived before or been, that's all kind of like part of what's always been going on.
Yeah.
Where like the world seems like it's going to end tomorrow kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Sure. Which, the hippie culture kind of, it all sounds like it maybe stemmed from that, or that's such an optimistic point of view. It's such a like all inclusive. We're all here together.
Live
we're all
and
here
let
to
live,
love
man.
one another. Yeah.
Just hang out. Be cool, man.
Right. Which is why maybe hippies are seen as uncool anymore because, the world, it's easier to be cynical. It's easier to just be like, well.
And I think cynical, I really don't like cynicism.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be cynical, but
Sure.
I think it's a disease almost.
Yeah. And I mean, the Dead, I'm not particularly familiar with their catalog, but from what I've heard, a lot of it is optimistic. A lot of it is kind of, it's talking about life and stories and a lot like Dylan was, but not a lot of it is, it's not Nine Inch Nails or something, it's not like angry at the world
Sure.
just to be angry at the world.
Well, it's so funny because you're right. Their lyrics to me, because I think Robert Hunter's so great, it's those lyrics that you can take a million different ways sometimes. Like there's a song called She's Gone, which I thought my whole life was about this, it was written about Cassidy and, Kerouac, and he hung out with, not Jack Cassidy, Neil Cassidy.
Neil Cassidy,
Yeah. I thought that song, He's Gone, was written about that, but it actually, if I'm wrong, Deadhead will correct me. It's written about one of their a money guy who came and ripped them
really?
off. So like this whole time, it's almost like Randy Newman songs where he can be writing about slavery,
Sure.
which he does, but the music is so beautiful that it works on all these different
So
levels.
charming.
Yeah.
It's the most charming song about slavery over here.
It is the most amazing. I probably should have picked him.
Oh, man.
Because no one's talked about Randy Newman, right?
No, God,
No.
nobody's even mentioned talking about Randy Newman.
Oh,
Yeah.
because when the line is like, in America you get food to eat, you won't have to run through the jungle and scuff up your feet.
Yeah.
So it's just about the slave ship guy bringing these people. And there's a whole album called Good Old Boys, which is also Good Old Boys and Sail Away might be up there with two of the greatest albums of all time.
yeah.
But he's the only person. Zappa did this too a little bit, but he's the person who's like and other people do it too. But the person singing the song is not Randy Newman necessarily, Except in Good Old Boys, he has these like country ballads that are so achingly sweet, even though he's from the point of view of the South. So that I don't know how we got on that.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I'm following your lead, Riff Master. You're,
Riff Master Mike.
that's right. Was it time to take a break, Taylor?
I think so.
That's how. By the way, I just want to say that after a half hour with me, everybody wants to take a break.
Is that standard
Yeah,
protocol?
this is standard protocol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that
you
we're-
guys have gone longer with me.
than most.
And you had to deal with me because on the way over, I was texting and I was doing all the things that I think are rude, but
Oh, you were being rude.
I had a lot of stuff going on back in L.A. Guys,
Yeah, Hollywood.
Can't talk about it.
Oh, man.
Can't talk about it.
Was it? We like to have our guests bring on a particular song. Is there a Grateful Dead song that means a lot to you, or one that you might have a story about, or anything you'd like to hear?
I would say, let's see, what's my favorite? Well, why did you do this to me?
The debate.
I
is
love
good.
Eyes of the World.
Eyes of
Okay.
the World.
Yeah, Eyes of the World and that's a later song actually.
Okay.
And I think it's it's beautiful.
Okay.
It's an E major, I think.
Oh.
Folks.
right.
They use a lot of major seventh chords, which I love. That major seventh chord is like a, like a minor chord's like it's trouble.
real dark,
It's
yeah.
trouble,
It's
but
the
the major
naughty
chord
notes.
is like happy, and then when they add the seventh,
Ah.
Then you're
it
like,
makes it's so happy. It makes you want to die.
all right. Well, let's try and
let's
do
do
some.
it.
Let's do some
That's my
meditation
worst
while we listen to
outro. That's the worst outro I've ever done.
Right outside this lazy summer home. You ain't got time to call your soul critic, no. Right outside the lazy game of winter summer home. Wondering where the nut thatch wings a mile long, just can't get the bird away. Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world. The heart has its beaches, its homeland, and thoughts of its own. Wake now, discover that you are the song that the morning brings. The heart has its seasons, its evenings, and songs of its own. There comes a redeemer, he slowly to fade away. There follows a wagon behind him that's loaded with clay. And the seeds that were silent all burst into bloom and decay. The night comes so quiet, it's close on the heels of the day. Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world. And the heart has its beaches, its homeland, and thoughts of its own. Wake now, discover that you are the song that the morning brings. The heart has its seasons, its evenings, and songs of its own. has its beaches, its homeland, and yards of its own. Wait now, discover that you are the sun that the morning brings. The heart has its seasons, its evenings, and songs of its own.
That was Eyes of the World by the Grateful Dead, brought in today by our guest, Mr. Andy Kindler.
Well, those are
Talking-
uplifting. Oh wait, I cut you off.
No, that was perfect. You jumped in right as I was.
Yeah, those are uplifting lyrics.
Yeah.
I mean, now come on. Now, though, tell me those aren't. I feel like weird to be in a position of saying it's uplifting. 'Cause that's not.
Well,
really
as
good.
I was listening to it, I realized that I probably don't dislike the Grateful Dead as much as I thought I did, or as much as I might have actually used to.
Yeah.
Because now, I don't know, I dislike so many other bands so much greater than I dislike the Grateful Dead. I just think it when
So much greater.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna make fun of you. Sorry.
Is that bad syntax?
I don't even remember what you said, but yeah, don't worry about it. I'm sorry. I'm being a jerk. I'm sorry.
No.
you're-
That's what we want from you is
Taylor,
grammatical.
jerkiness?
If
We
it
want you to
wouldn't-
grammatically jump in.
Yeah.
We have gone 3 episodes without you correcting my grammar or syntax, and so
Well,
I think
as
it's
Andy
about
pointed
time.
out, I put coasters on my table. That's
Yeah.
the kind of person I am. So,
Yeah.
you know,
As I was
I
saying,
correct grammar. I put coasters on tables.
That's a country. That could be a country lyric.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know. Now the nicest thing I could probably say about the Grateful Dead is that I find them just sort of innocuous now. Like I can just. I'm not ignoring it, but it just kind of falls into the background for me.
What a
little
wonderful
bit.
testament.
You know, I mean,
What a wonderful testament.
well, because
you're bringing me to tears in a way.
Well, Kevin's a punk kid. He grew up with that crazy punk rock there.
well, yeah,
that
but
the
so
kids
did
love.
I. Assume you did as well, Andy.
I never, there's so many things that I was either at the wrong time period or whatever. Like I now, because of Sharpling plays Led Zeppelin. Now I
Sure,
love,
of course.
Yeah.
I love Led Zeppelin. I loved them then, but it was they mixed in with other groups.
Yeah.
I like that Sharpling gives us permission to like Led Zeppelin. That's what he does. You're allowed now because he said so.
I didn't like Zeppelin for a long time either
Right.
when I was younger because it was like,
Yeah.
oh, those are the dudes that hang out in the van with like just drinking whiskey and like I'm not in with that crowd. I'm like into fucking Minor Threat, man, and like the Clash. Like I was that kid.
But see, I don't see the Clash as punk.
Well, after the first record, they really weren't. But the
that's where
first
the
record,
categories don't help anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At 15, 16, 17, all this stuff like makes sense now. I mean, I don't really care. And I
Yeah.
think I don't know. Maybe it's just the older I get, the less emphasis I put on those labels and that kind of stuff. That now I'm kind of being more open. Like I like Led Zeppelin now. Like I'll listen to it. I mean, I won't listen to the Grateful Dead, but who knows in 5 years?
You got to keep rubbing it in.
Yeah,
with
maybe.
them.
Yeah, maybe. I might like
Do you
it
still
eventually.
listen to the Dead?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah?
can still listen. Well, I even have this thing that comes out. It's like I think it's called Dick's Pick. It sounds terrible. Dick's Picks.
Oh,
Dick-
yeah. It's
Dick's
like a
Picks.
This was before the word dick. I don't even use.
Is that where
picks.
dick pic comes from?
I'm ashamed that I have a penis. It's just ridiculous. Keep it.
side note.
Keep it in, as a society. Let's all keep it in our pants. All right. I don't even like to watch. My wife and I don't even like to watch people kiss on screen.
Wait,
You know what I mean?
you're like,
I don't like the
"Ugh."
slurping sounds and the. I don't want anyone to kiss in public. I want to see
Behind
all your
closed doors.
feet. I want to
Speaking of
see all
country.
3 feet.
Yeah.
For a Grateful Dead fan, you sound very repressed right now.
I know.
What happened to the Summer of Love, man?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is that I never had the chops to
Oh, really?
participate in the free love.
Even with
The
your long
sexual
hair?
chops.
I never had the sexual chops. When I was single on the road, there was a time period where I went, like I always thought every man was like this. I'll sleep with every available woman.
Yeah, I've been
Who's,
there.
From what's the 22 to 80.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, What? Where were we talking
We were
about?
talking about the summer of love and how
Oh, yeah, but
you
in
never had
reality,
the-
I was able to see after a few years on the road. I was like, you're a desperate man.
This is in the
Whereas
mirror.
if I'd been scoring like a madman,
So you weren't when you were in college and you were going to these shows. You weren't hooking up. You weren't part of that. Whole...
well, come on. No, I had a girl. I had a very serious relationship in college from my sophomore year. So,
and those college serious relationships, those are serious.
Yeah.
So
in the worst kind of way.
Well, best and worst, maybe.
For me, it's been the worst. But
right. Well, this is also pre a lot of disease. It was pre-AIDS when I was in school.
Yeah.
And, what a time period.
so things were pretty loose.
But
is what you're saying.
but again, what I'm saying is that I wasn't waking up in a commune style.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like very few people were, right? Like that.
No, I think some people were, but not. Some
not to the
people
degree
were.
that pop culture would have us believe, perhaps.
Well, I mean, like Led Zeppelin, but I don't know. Those people were crazy. I don't know. You read those books and it's like they're
the
they're
Red
sacrificing
Snapper.
goats, and I don't know what they're doing. So
it's all for Tolkien. It's all for
It's all Lord
for,
of the
for
Rings.
Lord Satan.
Yep,
yeah,
totally.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's just D&D.
Yeah, no big
but,
deal.
Yeah.
but the punk thing though is a lot of the stuff, like even stuff my wife likes that I wasn't familiar with. Patti Smith. I mean, I'm more familiar now. And I'm starting to admit as I get older that I'm not. No, I don't know a lot about French films. I don't know why I ever said I did.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of things I don't. Like if you say someone like Steve Earle, I have almost every album of his. I was obsessed with Talking Heads. I loved all the groups like the Pretenders and all these different groups. But what I missed was a lot of. Later I heard the Ramones but I never and the Sex Pistols. But when it got real extreme punk, it seemed like heavy metal to me.
Okay.
I'm the same way, Andy. The only reason I know anything about punk is because of this guy and this podcast. Really. there's no other reason I would ever listen to it.
But now you like it.
Now,
Ish.
you know what? And now I can hear the melodies.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh, it's not just angry screaming.
Yeah,
It's,
not
there's-
every punk
there's
record
chord
is My War,
progressions,
yeah.
Like there's something like the Misfits is actually kind of a poppy band.
Oh, super
really.
pop.
Well, that's where the
Yeah.
categories get crazy because when,
Yeah.
when I say I don't like something, I'm really saying I don't like the worst example of what I think is
Totally.
the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I lived in Hermosa Beach, and that's where Black Flag came from.
We're going to diverge for a quick second. Were you there while Black Flag was coming up, or
I lived in the South Bay from like 1980 to 1999, so I think they were, but I wasn't.
you did? Oh man,
Is that when it was happening?
Yes, it was. Just
so angry.
Well, I'm not angry. It's just that you lived in New York in the 70s.
I know. No. I was in New York. I was in upstate.
Okay.
I never was in Manhattan like
I'm
a
just
real
saying,
New Yorker.
you were closer.
I was in Queens first.
Queens is good.
That's
It's
where
okay.
That's where
It's
the
okay.
Ramones came from.
Yeah, but not. It's a romanticized version. To
I'm
me,
just saying,
Queens is.
if it were me,
In Kevin's mind.
yes.
Hey, what you do is get some corned beef. I mean, it's like it's the island to me.
I'm just saying, in my mind, you squandered many
I
opportunities.
did.
That would've-
There's no question.
That would have changed my
I never,
life
when
greatly.
he said that this is no CBGBs, I had no idea what he was talking about. But Talking Heads, I was obsessed with
Sure.
them, and so I thought they were kind of punk in a way. But
Did you? So you felt sort of a divide between you as like a Deadhead and then like the rock stuff when you were younger.
Well,
then?
I never liked the whole time period where it got to be whatever you want to call it, heavy metal and all that. I always hated all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Or,
Yeah.
Well, because the Dead is so often like, well, that's a whole other world. That's San Francisco. That's the hippies. Like, whereas New Wave is like fuck hippies, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
In a lot of ways, it seems as though I
yeah.
don't know.
No, they're definitely saying.
Yeah.
We don't
Like
need
enough
it.
with that. Peace and love. Fuck that.
There were also like someone like Talking Heads of David Byrne. He was into disco because there was I was actually thought there were great things in disco, but
Sure.
they were also reacting against the overproduced
Yeah.
70s crap that just everything sounded like it was overdubbed. And,
right. Which didn't start out to be like
No.
a lot of those the early Dead records that I've heard are pretty straightforward.
Oh no, I'm talking about music in general.
Oh, okay.
It was like 60s and 70s were raw sound.
I got
Late
that.
70s got very buttoned down and
like
Boston.
Boston, corporate butt rock. Is that what you're talking about?
among
Little
other
sticks.
things.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I used to be in bands. I wrote a song about, which is basically I wrote a song taking the exact lines from these. Used to be a thing called The Recycler, which was a magazine where you'd meet before there was Craigslist, where
Yeah.
you'd meet like musicians. So one of the ads was like, "I'm looking for a hot, sensational, dynamic female vocalist with excellent range." who can double on congas. I pulled all these things out of it.
Oh my God.
No punks, no drunks. That was big. And then it was always like
This was in your song?
Well, I made a song out of it, but this
Yeah.
was the actual lines.
Right.
Like
So you're
no punks, no drunks, no posers, please. That's in the song. That was in almost every hit.
That
No
sounds like a
posers.
punk song.
No posers, please.
Yeah.
PSR. PLS.
Yeah, poser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if this grouping was in the same group, it was always like Into Sticks, Foreigner, REO.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
That was it.
That's all,
Journey. I couldn't stand any of that music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until The Sopranos. Final
Right?
episode,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Then
Don't
you're like,
stop
well, it's all
believing, man.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you're like, I'm into this. For this,
For this- for the-
but the thing about the Dead, though, that I think is exclusively to them, and maybe you got it more when you saw them live or in brief flashes, was the actual communication between, maybe this is what Fish does too, but the actual communication between the musicians. And I just see Sharpling just shaking his
staring
head.
down at us.
He's staring down at us. He's shaking his head disapprovingly. But when you listen to like Phil Lesh and Bob Weir, who's an amazingly maybe underrated rhythm guitarist, they're really they're not just playing all together. They're listening to each other, and that became transcendent.
So is that why the bootleg aspect of the Dead got so huge as well? Because it was about, I mean, I guess,
moment
yeah,
or
that
something?
moment that you're talking about. Is that why the bootleg thing? Because I think of like bootlegs, and when I hear that, like I think of the Dead right away, just because of that culture. They just seem to go hand in hand.
Well, they weren't. I mean, the truth is, it's hard when you're not a strict studio band. You know, even though they have great studio albums, they really were more amazing live. But it was actually a very clever thing that I don't know if they did it for marketing when they started, but they never stopped people from recording their shows illegally. They just didn't care about it.
Yeah.
And that's where the bootleg started, and then that's where the word of them became like a grassroots thing that spread out.
Yeah.
So it was very clever what they did in that particular time period. This was before, you know, people were downloading.
Which is
things.
super punk of them, really.
Yeah, it was
That's-
cool.
It's so punk rock.
I think they kind of did live. I mean, one of the things I did on the Sharpling show was a parody of was AP Mike brought in the worst
Pigpen
version
thing?
of Pigpen.
Yeah.
Because, and that's where I feel like in the last few years they've let their standards down. Because Europe '72 is a brilliant album. When you hear this thing where Pigpen's going, everybody's gonna need it. I gotta have it. You want it, girl? All that stuff is terrible, and
Yeah.
they would not have put that on the
So
album.
how did Pigpen get involved in the Grateful Dead then? He wasn't initially in the group for the first couple records,
Well,
right?
we have to separate one thing. It's like,
Is there a
I'm a dead
post-Pigpen,
no.
pre-Pigpen era?
I'm a Deadhead, no question. But
Yeah.
I'm not like a Deadhead who could say this came from that. I mean, I know the early period was Pigpen. I know the music, but I don't know exactly why Pigpen came in there. I mean, he did have this kind of blues feeling, and he did songs like Big Boss Man, which is like a country song that he did a great job on.
Can't you hear me when I call? Big boss man, can't you hear me when I call? Well, now you ain't so big. You just told us just about all. And now you got me working, boss man. I'm working around the clock. I want a little drink of whiskey, but you sure won't let me stop calling Big Boss Man. Can't you hear me when I call? Course now you ain't so big. You just told us just about all.
Mr. Charlie Told Me, which is about Charles Manson, and he did on the studio albums was able to capture this kind of raw that I think worked for them at that time period.
So you're a Pigpen apologist.
Well, I'm a Pigpen apologist. I love the songs where he's great on.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't miss him.
Right.
And I mean, there was like a joke. It's not a joke, but it was a joke I came up with pre stand up. Was that this realization where when I was like a sophomore in college, and the people go, they told Pigpen, if you keep drinking, you're gonna die, and he kept drinking until he died. We're like, woo! And then like a year later, like,
Oh God!
what an idiot! They
so
told
sad.
him to stop it with the drinking.
And he's
So it's like,
"Fuck you."
at one point you see it as like this guy rocked, and then the next minute you're like, I don't know that he did the
he's-
right thing.
Yeah, he's kind of a
That
tragic
might have been
figure.
a bad choice
Yeah.
in that moment.
Well, it seems like I don't know. I haven't listened to a lot of the Pigpen stuff, but it seems kind of like
You're not a Pigpen
No, I'm-
completist?
That would be weird if you were a Pigpen.
Only Pigpen.
I only like. But it seems like Pigpen was trying to do like a Joe Cocker kind of thing, like bring that element.
He
into
was
the
like
band.
Joe Cocker meets Bez from the Happy Mondays.
Yeah,
He was like,
I don't know
just
that
there.
second reference. Was it?
Bez from the Happy Mondays. He's just the guy who
He's a
danced.
hype man.
He just danced.
Oh.
He's like
Yeah.
the guy in the Mighty Mighty Boss Stones who just, Although
Yeah.
the
And
Mighty
you're-
Mighty Boss Stones those fans will yell at me for saying that. Be like, no, he brought a lot to the band.
Didn't Bez use maracas or something?
He might have used maracas on occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was the drug supplier basically, and then they
Oh.
let him kind of hang out and dance with them.
But he-
This
Well,
is
but-
all according to 24 Hour Party people.
Sure,
PT
yeah.
dubs, yeah.
According to who?
24 Hour Party people. It's a movie about the
Oh, I wanna
Manchester
see that movie.
scene. Oh, it's great.
Oh, you'd
It's
yeah.
fun.
Let me write that
If you
down on
like
my
New
pad
Wave.
I haven't used.
It's Steve Coogan actually.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
How can you not?
Yeah.
What is the movie he just came out with? Was
It's-
Philomania.
no, yeah, that one. But there was also another one that was.
He has the Alan Partridge movie that
I have not
that's
seen. Is it
coming
great?
out. I don't know if it's here in the States yet. Is it?
I don't think it
know.
is.
Yeah.
Well, I hope Derek comes more Derek. Season 2 of Derek.
Oh.
I inquired how much it would be to have Netflix without Derek. Give me a price. Give me a price on that.
Well, as I was saying before, all that wonderful digressions, like Jerry Garcia's voice is very. He sings almost like what you think a sweet uncle would kind of sound like. He's got a very sort of
Sweet uncle.
fatherly.
yeah. It's just got a
uncle-
very I don't know, but it's so counter to what the Pigpen thing was.
No,
You know
you're
what I
right.
mean?
And
It's so-
ultimately, the band, the blues. If you were to say what's the greatest, first of all, just saying what's the greatest blues. Blues is the weirdest form of music because when it's great, it's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also you could also just be playing the blues and
It's formulaic.
Formulaic.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that they were formulaic, but I think they outgrew whatever that time period was, and so they're more Garcia and Bob Weir than they are that kind of like
Yeah.
"Oh, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
Oh, wake up in the morning. Oh, I'm in the How?
Which is it's a thing. I mean, it's a thing. It's become transcendent thanks to Tom Sharpling.
Well, yeah, and I feel like you had so much of my knowledge of Pigpen kind of comes through you talking about Pigpen on the Best Show as well. So it's like,
Right.
I mean, do you feel you've had some sort of influence now that
people
I mean,
can rethink about the dead.
well,
thanks
like
to Sandy Kindler.
even in like on the last episode of the Best Show, like on the soundscape, so like he was using part of
Oh.
you singing the Pigpen thing.
It was a thrill. It's just like the most thrilling thing to me. I love that that whole soundscape thing he did. It just got more brilliant.
And you
every
were on
week.
almost every one of them, I
It
think,
was
doing
like
the Pigpen
it's a
singing.
career highlight. I loved it so much because he also, like Julie Klausner tweeted something that's an actual line from it that I never actually saw what it was when I said it. You want to need it or something like that.
Yeah.
You're going to need it. I want to get it. Something that made-
I get it in the morning.
I always come up with things even as recently as a week ago. I wish I had done that during this
Yeah.
riff.
You're
Well,
like,
it is terrifying to be on the phone with.
I was
with
terrified
Tom.
the first time I called him because it was for the Gary. I think it was on the first time.
Oh, really?
I couldn't hear a word he was saying.
The comedians are nuts bit.
Yeah, because you can't hear. He's hard to hear anyway. And I had an iPhone. It just was a nightmare. And my regular phone, which I wanted to use, wasn't working. And so he's like,
What do you think of you? I heard you don't like Louis C.K.
"What?"
I heard you do.
It probably helped a bit, you not being able to hear it. Andy Kindler! Yeah. Well, you brought up Mike. AP Mike from the show also was a huge Deadhead
He's
as
a big
well.
Deadhead.
He is
Have you guys swapped bootlegs? Have you built
No.
up a friendship over the Grateful Dead?
No, we got into not a real beef, but I was like saying I was mad at like a fake mad at him for bringing that Pigpen thing to Tom's attention.
Well, the reason the legendary reason he and Tom are friends is because he played Strozik for him and was laughing the whole time. The Werner Herzog movie.
Like a psychopath.
What is Strozik?
It's some sort of it's a Werner Herzog movie.
like
so
a black comedy.
Yeah, it's very existential. It's very dark, and Mike's cracking up and saying, "Isn't this hilarious?"
Oh,
you
he
know?
hated it. Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, but Mike has a strange sense of humor.
You see, I hear those words, and the other one I hear, which I don't even never like. My favorite John Worcester thing is when he said the Kevin Smith, Adam Sandler look. He called that adult toddler.
Yeah.
But he uses this word that I never heard. He uses it almost every show.
Yeah.
It's exsanguination.
Exsanguination.
What is that?
Exsanguination.
I'm not even
I think
sure what
isn't
that
it
is.
when like a body?
This
like,
is your
Is the
area,
blood
Taylor.
taken out of it?
something like that. Yeah, something like that. It's like a body is like bereft of its
Drain of its
liquids
blood?
or something. yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I want to say for anybody listening here who's on the fence about the Grateful Dead, there's also great stuff. There's a Garcia, like a 2 CD thing where he sings Dylan stuff.
Oh, really?
And there's a lot of stuff that Garcia did with John Kahn and Merle Saunders, who's a great keyboard player. And those are also really, really great albums.
Isn't there? There's he did a bluegrass album.
Older
right?
Than the Way.
Yeah.
He did too, which was a brilliant
I've heard those. I
group.
like those a lot.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I mean he's a genuine that's the thing. I've heard a lot of people who are Grateful Dead fans, and they're trying to convince me to like the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
It's back in the day when it was like, well, no, there's no fucking way.
I gave up on that many years ago.
Yeah,
Convincing
yeah,
anybody.
but they're like, well, have you heard Jerry Garcia on his own? Like he's this amazing musician outside of the Dead itself.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, I enjoy his stuff. But I'm
Yeah.
kind of like Kevin now, where I'm like, well, it's nice, it's good. It's not something I'm going to put on all the time, but
Right. Right.
Do you think that you had to be there? Is that kind of what it
No,
is?
no, I can listen to anything by his voice is transcendent to me, and his guitar playing is transcendent because it's melodic. The thing is, I know what I like, so I know it's when you get into this thing where, like, I always defer to other musician friends of mine because people do it for a living and stuff like that because it's like stand-up comedy. The more you like, they could tell me something was hacky that I would know was hacky about comedy. In a way, sometimes because you haven't. But it does get to this thing where I trust my own taste. Like I love Bob Dylan. You're not going to convince me.
Sure.
His voice isn't amazing.
Sure.
So that's the
It's
way.
become ingrained into who you are. It sounds
Yeah,
like.
and also just it's one of a piece of like all those type of people who sang that way, and like I say, go back to folk songs, and that's the way I feel about Garcia. I'll never change my opinion about it. I mean, I stopped listening. I mean, there was a time period where I listened to it more, I have friends who that's all they wanted to listen to. That's crazy to me.
Did you ever have a moment with either the Grateful Dead or just Jerry Garcia's solo stuff where you're like, meh, it's not quite like as good, or has every record just always been meeting the standard that you initially fell in love with the band about?
I think you can make the argument that they were, from the mid '60s or whatever through the '70s. There was probably a period where they were most prolific. But the amazing thing about them is, I saw them in the '70s. I saw them, I think, in the '80s. They were always capable of doing something amazing again.
Yeah.
But there was probably a more concentrated period where they were clicking. And then
you
Jerry Garcia died, so that was
Yeah.
sad.
So you never had a moment though where like a new Grateful Dead or Jerry Garcia record came out and you were excited, listened to it, and was like, that's kind of.
But he didn't do it that way. That's the thing too. It's not like when John Lennon did solo albums of Paul McCartney. These were like I keep saying like don't usually say that. So this is a terrible.
You're around us young people.
I know I don't usually do it.
We're a bad influence.
Yeah.
He did a lot of songs he did with the Dead, so it never would have been a departure. I can say that about Bob Weir. Like I love Bob Weir and I love him in the Dead, but I'm not that crazy about the Barlow
Rat Dog.
Yeah, well, I think it's Barlow, right? I mean, I love a lot of it, but it's a little bit more like he sings like, ooh, whereas Garcia had that sweet voice.
Yeah.
But when they're the Dead, I can't separate them and say
Sure.
that I feel Bob Weir is integral to the group.
Yeah. Well, and the friends that I have that have been into the Grateful Dead, it seems like the song "Touch of Grey" was sort of a sign of like, oh, these guys aren't really. Like it was just sort of.
That was the beginning of the end. Or
I don't know.
something?
That's the way I've heard from other.
No,
Grateful
I
Dead
don't believe. I
fans.
thought that
Do
was
you not
a
feel that way?
No, I thought it was first of all, it's an amazing video. Have you seen the
It's
video?
it's a pretty good video.
Yeah, the
And,
skeletons playing, right?
Yeah. And it's, you're not confusing it with the hair care.
Touch
thing.
of Grey.
Yeah, so that did probably cheapen it.
Just for men.
Yeah, touch of Grey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks so natural. No one can
Nobody could make that argument. No one could. That's not like they came. First of all, the Grateful Dead. Don't get me angry. The Grateful Dead never were like they trucking got up to number 5 on some
Sure,
local
sure.
show. They knew they were never making hits, so it wasn't like they went, "Oh, we'll make this Touch of Grey thing." It'll
Right.
be just happened to be a great song.
It's a lesson to me. The eagles and the beggars and the seas.
Yeah.
You know, it's also a song about them aging. I think it's odd that anybody would say that was the sign of you know what the sign of the downfall of them
What's that?
was when Jerry Garcia died.
That was just it. That was
yeah.
the
I don't know why I'm
official-
laughing.
I mean, it's
but
sad, yeah.
that's a demarcation
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
I remember when I got that Rolling Stone in the mail when
Yeah.
he was on the cover. You know, R.I.P. Jerry Garcia. It was such a huge.
Even though you were 3,
It was-
you still said,
I was
later
you
this
know
will
what?
affect me.
I was probably 13 or 14.
Don't you? I want to be the old guy who everyone is so annoyed at. Yes, we know.
You know, but with the weird thing is the effect that the 60s still has to
Yes.
this day, because there are so many baby boomers, because it is such a huge part of the culture.
Yeah.
I felt like, well, this is something I need to know about. Like, I didn't at that point know anything about the Grateful Dead. I was huge into the Beatles. I was huge into, you know, a lot of like the 60s music. My mom listened to Joni Mitchell all the time.
I
and
love
all
Johnny
that.
Mitchell, Blue,
Yeah.
and Court and Spark, and
All that, yeah. And to see that on the cover was like, well, I better learn about this person, you know, because this is the good stuff, you know.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
Rolling Stone is
at the
memorializing
time,
them
right.
on the cover, you're like,
Rolling
well,
Stone at the
what
time
am I
meant
missing
something.
out on?
Right.
Yeah,
It
totally.
doesn't really mean anything nowadays, but
Yeah.
at the time it meant something.
yeah.
Yeah, but also it all comes around. Like, you know, if you say like, do I listen? No, I don't listen to the Grateful Dead now like I did, but I will. You know, I have to give it time. But it is all that's led me to people like Lucinda Williams and Dave Alvin, who was in the Blasters, and all Steve Earle, all of this what they call
Roots music.
roots music.
Yeah.
Whatever again, the names are always bad, but it is to me it's in the same tradition of the stuff that I was listening to.
Yeah.
You know, and I love the old like Waylon Jennings and
Sure.
George Jones, and I love all
Classics.
that country stuff.
Yeah, so how do you feel then about like Bob Weir and Phil Lesh and these guys and their later projects they've done after Jerry Garcia?
I don't have any idea what. And it's not even like I
So
don't
Jerry
wanna listen-
Garcia was like your guy then. So
I
like
think if
when
I
he
had
was
to
done, you were
pick-
kind of done.
Well, I think they were very respectful about saying we're not continuing. with
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, totally.
You know, I'm sure that working with, like, I have a book called Harrington Street, which has his art in it, because he was just brilliant at everything he did. But I'm sure it was very hard for everybody with the drug problems and stuff. I mean, who knows? We weren't there. But they were never, you never got the sense with them that they weren't all on the same page and all, that there was lack of respect amongst them.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my favorite stories is a Grateful Dead story. The Grateful Dead movie is a great movie for anybody who wants to see just a really amazing movie, because it has all the stuff that's going on the around the concert that is happening, and then under the stage. I think they're
Really?
doing that. Oh, it's amazing. And there's a part in there about Jerry Garcia, which I found very inspirational to what anybody who's in the arts is doing, because he said that one time he came to learn that what he was experiencing in the moment wasn't always true, because he was playing a show with Bob Weir, and he hated the set. He would often hate what they just did. He got a big argument. He said, I pushed, I think it was Bob or Phil, I pushed him down the stairs. And he goes, and that would never happen. We're so tight. And he goes, and then later on, that was the best stuff when they made the album. So he learned that he isn't, in general, you don't really... Because that's what's hard about acting. Like when I think of myself acting and I look back, like, oh my God. But once you've made something, you're almost not the right person to say what happened. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it makes you. I like it because it makes you feel like you don't always have to be feeling like this is the greatest thing, whatever you're doing. Whether it's that's a good thing to learn when you stand up.
Totally.
Because if you constantly push, I gotta kill, it starts to get tiring for everybody. Whereas if you go, it's gonna be up and down, and
Yeah.
and
That's how we do this podcast.
that's yeah. Well, that's how I justify a lackluster show. So if you come see
Yeah.
me, I've warned you.
Do you know what's funny? I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, all I've done is interrupt. So please.
The only time I really sincerely thought about getting into the Dead was because of Freaks and Geeks.
Oh,
Have
at
you
the
seen
end of
the
the
series?
at the end of the
Oh, I
series
was a
with
huge
Ripple.
fan, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, the
Oh.
very end of the series, like because it got canceled.
Yeah.
She becomes a Deadhead.
Goes on tour.
Yeah, like her friends give her American Beauty, and she starts listening, and she's like, "This is the greatest."
Right, right.
That takes place. What is it, like 1981, 1982,
Yeah.
or something?
Well, yeah.
So it's like after they were at their height, but she still was. That was the thing, and it was still fascinating to me that they could be that influential even that far into their career. That
Right.
like that kids would still be like, "No, we are going on the road
Well, still,
with the Dead."
still to
you
this
know?
day, too. Like that's what I was saying earlier about like with Phil Lesh and Bob Weir and how they continue to tour with and they don't use the
Didn't
Grateful Dead name,
Did
but
they say with Joan Osborne at some point?
yeah, I mean they tour. It seems like every year they're on tour, and
Mm-hmm.
there's some show at Red Rocks with either one or multiple members of the Grateful Dead. And there's people that are now my age, even younger than me. Believe it or not, Andy Kindler. There are people younger than me out there that
I know that's true, but I refuse to.
but they are so into the Grateful Dead now in a way that it seems like they're either trying to recreate a moment that they missed, or they just want. They grew up with hippie parents, and so they want to get just one interaction and be able to see Bob Weir, Phil Lesh live. And so these guys keep touring that now. It's been, 50 years almost since they first came together that they've continued to have this influence and now continue to get more young fans.
Well, and you're saying like, you were the youngest in your family. You felt like you missed out on something. I think even now there are kids who are like,
Totally.
we missed out on the best part. We got to go back and listen to that. That was the best part.
Yeah, and even being able to get some piece of what that thing was is monumental, I think, for a lot of the new fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's interesting is it happens. I think it just happens organically. Sometimes some people listen to American Beauty and they end up going on a bus and going, wherever.
As Ripple's playing, as the
Yeah,
VW bus
right,
pulls
right.
out.
I didn't have that experience. I listened to it and I enjoyed it very much, but it wasn't like life changing.
Right. Well, the other thing that you're talking about too is interesting because again, a sharpening popped in my head because I love the band.
Yeah.
And of course, he's trying to ruin that for me too. But
Canadian Civil War reenactors.
Exactly. But the truth
I
is,
like the band.
but the truth is that the way Levon Helm was writing about stuff is very simple. I should mention that one of the why should I? But I will mention that a seminal album for me was Tumbleweed Connection, which was Elton John, where there's a lot of country sound on that thing, on that baby. But a lot of people at that time period were writing about like kind of had those same themes, that like the Dead have, and also the band has, and
the Americana thing.
Americana,
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
totally.
Which, is also a form of nostalgia. I mean, it seems like nostalgia can be inspirational for current music, which, like you said, the Dead were drawing upon like folk music and sort of old types of music. I mean, the hippies in general kind of grabbed all that.
Yeah, well, it's also a continuum of like, which is why I'm fascinated with, especially Kesey, because Kesey was so inspirational, and it's the fact that they really were trying to use their mind stuff to really open up and stuff like that. So I don't even know if it's nostalgia, because a lot of time when I was growing up, I'd be into things like Billie Holiday, but not for nostalgia. I really just fell in love with her at a later time. I think that's also part of it. It's like you listen to Charlie Parker, you listen to these great Louis Armstrong, you listen to these people. It's not like you're longing to be part of that time. You really are getting it. I think are capable of getting it.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Again.
That's true. And it's kind of great that it's without context for you,
Right, because ultimately the context is always limiting.
Totally.
If we get too far into punk, and I'm saying I don't like punk, I'm really just saying nothing in a way, because I'm not. Because what does punk mean? It was always meant to categorize. So as you go, I can generally say on the melodic. I've heard some of these things that are like atonal music. I was a classical musician, so I heard atonal music, and I can appreciate it, but I don't know that I would ever not want there to be. I would always move towards the more melodic,
Sure.
But then that can sound. I remember when I was a kid, I was into really, I'm ashamed now, but I was into Jim Croce for a couple of years, and then
It's a good songwriter.
he was a good songwriter. But when I remember, like after listening to one of his albums, like the 50th time, I was like, this is the worst accompaniment I've ever heard, because it was all the same, like two guitars and the and the acoustic thing. There are sounds that I love the sound of acoustic guitar, and I love all of those things that will make me buy something. Like you might like something that has a punky sound that draws you in.
Yeah, sure.
So that might, I hear acoustic guitar, It could be the Geico guy. No, not the Geico. Those guys make you hate banjos.
Oh man, mandolins!
Oh,
I never want to hear a mandolin again now. Thanks to those
Is that
guys.
done? Is that done where they go?
Those two guys?
More Tuesday than Tuesday. You know, at the end where they do those little
I feel like it's still
catchphrases.
I
yeah, I
think
think it's
they're
still
still doing 'em, yeah.
online. I don't think it's on TV anymore.
Hotter
I think
than a
it's
very
online.
hot day in July.
Bam, ding, ding, bing, ding, ding, ding. I'm like, oh man.
Unfortunately, one of those guys looks like our friend Robert Rutherford. I feel like, who's a really great guy, and
Well, these guys might
could
be
be
great
him.
guys too, but the whole thing
It's a
reminds me
terrible
of
ad
terrible
campaign.
music, and
Yeah.
it looks like it's in a mall.
Yeah.
And they're always in front of that backdrop.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very clever.
Who comes to
very
see them?
clever.
Are people paying to see them?
No, I think they ambush.
They're
It's
just
like
the
a
comment
flash
guys.
mob. Yeah,
They're just the comment
Yeah.
guys.
Exactly.
We got a song and it's a comment about what's going on. Right here.
Exactly.
Also
that-
by Geico.
It's got. I don't understand anything with Geico. I don't understand that lizard. What is that lizard doing? I don't understand it. That's as old Jewish people would say. Is that supposed to be funny? Is that the humor? Is that humor
I
now?
don't think it's funny anymore. I think it's just a spokesperson now. It's just
I just find it interesting that Geico picked not one, not two, but multiple different terrible ad campaigns
Yeah,
to
yeah,
roll
the
out.
pig one,
the,
right?
there's the pig one. There's the gecko
Yeah.
lizard guy. There's the band people.
Mm-hmm.
There's the cavemen. There's the money with the eyes on it. It's all this like
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's all at the same time too.
Yeah.
It's almost. And the thing that's terrible is it's almost good. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like it's none of it's actually funny. None of it's really good ideas.
Yeah,
but they're
right.
all like
it's on,
Get
the, and it's on
close.
the precipice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it the
Exactly.
gecko? Is that the joke? Gecko Geico?
yeah, that's where it
That was
started.
the original thing.
I would never
yeah.
have in a million years cared about that connection. Oh, it's a gecko.
Yeah.
What are they selling? They save you more
Car
in 12
insurance.
minutes.
Yeah, something like
I
that.
Well,
love-
so the one I do like is now they have the old lady. This is on Logo, which is the
The
GLBT
gay
community
channel.
When I'm watching my RuPaul's
I
Drag
like
Race.
the way you say that.
The
yeah.
gay
All right, here
channel.
it comes. Here it comes.
Well, he knows how much I love RuPaul.
I
and
love
Drag
RuPaul
Race.
as well.
I know.
That's why I can get away with
I don't
calling
like
it the
Ron-
gay channel.
I don't like Ron Paul. I'll tell you that right now. Or Rand Paul.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Yeah. Well, you
But
can't love all the family.
There's one with two old ladies, and she's like, "I just saved 15 minutes. I saved on my car insurance." And her friend's like, "Well, you can save in 7 minutes if you were with Geico." Like, as if 15 minutes is for old people now. Like that's so
Right,
slow
right.
and old.
So is that one kind of funny, that one?
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Well,
she
they have
she
smart
opens
people writing
her what do you call it? The CD-ROM thing and
Oh,
puts her
yeah.
little teacup on there and like that's how she uses her CD-ROM drive. It's cute.
It's
you know,
almost
it's cute.
funny.
All people
Yeah.
are funny.
Yeah.
With their doddering ways.
Right?
I'm obsessed. These are the commercials that I cannot stop watching. It's like 5 a.m. and you go, have you come in contact with asbestos? Did you see a Steve McQueen movie? In 1984, 1986.
Then you may be entitled.
Did you use a ballpoint pen in the
Yeah.
August of 1994? You might be entitled
Yeah.
to a big payoff.
Gonna do a large cash settlement.
Yes.
Call this
Yeah.
number.
Call this horrible ambulance chasing.
Yeah.
Call
Yeah.
our terrible.
So you can
call
get-
ambulance chasers.
Yeah, so you
today.
can get $40 maybe out of this multi-million-dollar class.
Now, I'm
action
sorry to
lawsuit.
say these words, but isn't there some sort of mesh, some sort of crotch mesh or vaginal mesh or something like that?
That's right.
Right?
Did
There's
you,
one where it's like,
did you know
experience-
somebody? Right.
Yeah. With
Wait.
yeah.
Do you know what the word mesh means?
Do you have more info on this? Because I think
I-
I might be entitled to a cash settlement because I wore a lot of mesh when I was younger.
Did you have a hip replacement from 1999?
Let me think. I'd be 13 then.
Why did
so
you? First of
no.
all, we should, after getting the money back for the defective hip,
Yeah.
we really should look at who recommended
Yeah, and then see that
the
guy.
13-year-old.
Yeah,
Oi,
He
my
was-
hip.
Kev was trying to get into sports. It didn't work out.
Oh no,
It
I
didn't
did
work
not have
out.
the body for
No,
it
no.
at all. Podcasts and comedy were worked way better for
you
this
heaved
frame.
the basketball here
Is-
and there.
Yeah,
Is that true though that you were a sports guy?
I was captain of the JV team in basketball in high school.
How tall?
He
How
says it
tall are
with
you?
such
6'3".
happiness.
Oh, now you're talking.
Yeah, that's
You're
why
in the-
I was on varsity for 2 years. I was doing it, and then
I know what that word.
And then I
means.
quit. And then I quit the band or quit the team because I had my band, my rock and roll band. that
Were you
was,
punk? Was it punky?
Oh yeah, it was a terrible pop punk band, and then another one was like an emo punk band. They were I destroyed most of the copies of all the music that existed.
You remember
We recorded 2 albums too.
Ooh, are
two
they-
different bands, 2 albums.
I think they're probably good, and you're like underselling these.
I know one of them is one of the most embarrassing things I've ever done in my life, and then the other one's probably the most brilliantly mediocre thing I've probably done as well. So I don't know. I mean, I was 16, 17, 18. None of it could have actually been good, you know.
I bet there's something in there that's really great.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
that's
well.
that time period where
If my
What-
mom
what am
if
I,
my, if my mom has a
Preston?
record, I'll send it
Yeah,
to you,
yeah.
and then you can let me know what you think.
Yeah, I'm excited to start having my embarrassing moments. I have got my bass over there. I'm starting to learn how to play the bass, so
There you go.
it's going to come up here.
What kind of bass? What are you carrying over there? What do you got?
It's
Fender
a
Precision?
it's a
Fender
short
jazz
style,
bass?
short style Fender
3/4 stock.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's really cheap, is what it is. It was like $100.
Something to learn on.
Yeah, but I'm gonna get out there and embarrass myself. Damn it.
Do it.
Yeah.
I'm happy that phase is over, or maybe it's coming back in. I don't
This
know.
is what happens. Kevin exposed me to punk, and now I want to go and not play punk, but like get out there on
You
the
want to be in a
stage.
punk band?
No.
We can
just-
be. I'll play in a punk band
No,
with
sir.
you.
No, sir.
Where are the big punk clubs these days?
They all died.
Yeah.
They don't.
I mean, well, we don't know because we're too old.
yeah, exactly.
We're too old to know where the.
Oh, I
punk
know.
clubs
I go to
are. You know?
warehouses and stuff.
You go to
yeah.
warehouses?
Yeah, I've done stand up in warehouses.
All right,
I mean,
well,
I'm only
you're
20,
out there.
I'm only 28, Taylor. Okay, I'm hip.
You
I'm
go to
swinging.
you go to a lot of raves.
It's not 1996. So no more raves.
No
Although
raves.
I did I got an email today at work from the Great American Techno Festival people.
There you go.
They want to have their opening. Yeah, exactly. They want to have their opening reception. They call it a reception. Now, wait a minute. It's techno, and they're calling it a reception.
be a bunch of
Like,
people on
what is
Molly.
going on? Yeah.
Is this like Calvin Harris type music?
I don't know what. I don't know. Who
He's like a
Calvin Harris
DJ.
is.
But my friend, a really good friend of mine, his nephews are in Boston. There's supposed to be some amazing like electronic Boston scene
Oh,
that
I'm
he's
sure.
a part of.
Yeah.
I don't even
These
know what
the
I'm
kids.
not-
See, we're too old. We don't know.
Yeah.
The kids know.
Dubstep and EDM are the two styles of music that I'm like,
And
oh,
those are
maybe I
probably
am
like
kind of old
passe
now.
now at this point.
Maybe. I
Probably.
don't- yeah. I do not
Like
have my finger
dubstep
on
was
the
huge in
pulse.
England like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're just now getting it.
Wop, wop, wop,
Is that
wop.
true? We're just getting it now?
Well, I mean, not just now. Like the
past
few
few years,
years,
yeah.
But it was
What does that
huge in
mean,
England a while
dubstep?
ago.
I don't want to
It's
do
like
that.
the
Sounds like
Skrillex
computers
and-
having sex,
Oh.
like
Falling down the stairs.
Yeah.
The
It's-
Transformers were tripping
Transformer
while
music.
fucking. Yeah,
Yeah,
That's kind of
yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
Like if you ever watch a movie trailer and it's always like the boom,
Yes,
boom,
yes.
like that's kind of dubstep.
My favorite movie trailer was the one for Neighbors, where Seth Rogen's on a toilet,
Yep.
which collapses.
Yeah.
hilarious.
And then there's a urine stream that you see in the middle of the air, and then I was making fun of that, and people said, "Yeah, but just to play devil's advocate, or that wasn't in the actual movie." Well, that's worse. It's worse that they put that
it
in the
was
preview.
too funny for the movie. Too funny.
That's such a classic gag. How can you not like that? Fat guy falls down on the toilet, so heavy he
Is
breaks
he
it.
considered? He's a regular sized guy. right?
Well,
He's lost some weight.
No,
had
but
some-
that's not what happened. What happened was, it's not even see the movie, but I know what happened. The neighbors did something to his toilet.
Oh, those prankster neighbors.
Yeah, the neighbors,
Yeah.
Zac Efron.
and I bet
and his
hijinks
friends.
ensued after
Yes.
that.
Zac Efron and his six pack did something.
Oh,
it did something.
Yeah, that's a great six pack, huh? You got to give a shout out to Zac Efron's six
No,
pack.
you don't. No, you don't.
You
I
brought
have
it
the
up.
exact same body that he has.
You know what? Me
Not
too.
on me.
Well, I'm trying to find some way to wrap this up and talk
Get it
about the
back to the
Grateful
Dead?
Dead, but
Well, Jerry
Maybe this
Garcia
was-
never had a six pack, and God bless him.
Well, you know
Unless it
what?
was in his hand.
I think this was a fitting episode to talk about the Grateful Dead because much like the music of the Grateful Dead, it was meandering.
Mm.
It was really good in some parts. Other parts were like, oh, like I feel like I was
Other
the,
parts, it was bathroom break time.
I feel like I was the Pigpen of this episode. I think I came in, tried to bring some soul, but really just
I always feel like I didn't do my best. That's my philosophy. My images of this was me going, "Nah, rah, rah, the dead, the this, the that.
Well, is
Mr.
it-
Pretentious.
Is there anything that you wanted to
Oh,
say before
we
we?
get way more pretentious on the
Oh,
show.
yeah.
Believe
Trust me, this
is
was
not
very
normal.
unpretentious,
yeah.
Pretentious, yeah.
But was there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about before we wrapped up?
I
when it
don't
comes
think
to
so
the Dead?
because I think we got the communal thing,
Yeah.
the thing of it being a way of a spiritual thing, and a way of so all of that stuff, and
drugs.
then the drugs. But no, I mean, I don't think I'm going to follow whatever's happening. I don't think there's any necessarily like, and now this is the next thing that's going to be like the Dead. I think the Dead were like anything. I hate to say this because people are going to, but like the Beatles or anything other phenomenon where, of course, I will. And when I make the list, which I hate making lists, the Beatles are at the top of the list, and maybe the Dead aren't number one. But I hate doing that because they are number one in my head, and so all of it's all the same kind of a thing. But they're once in a lifetime thing to me. That's why I could never get into. Maybe Fish is great, but to me, it wasn't like they weren't a jam band.
Yeah.
They were a band that, first of all, had amazing lyrics and great songs. And then the jam part was something they kind of invented for their form.
Right.
I'm going to say one thing. I didn't add anything with my final argument. I'll tell you that. It's not like if we were going to now vote with the jury.
My verdict is you passed this episode.
All right.
You did so well, Andy Kindler.
Yeah.
We do shameless plugs on the show. Do you have anything you'd like to plug?
I think I'm going to be on the second season of Marin.
Okay.
So
Which is
I
airing
know
right
I'm
now,
going to be.
right?
I know I'm going to be on. So why am I
Yeah.
playing coy?
Well, you might be
coy.
cut out. Who knows?
I was cut out of one. Thanks
Were
for
you?
reminding me, yeah. And the writer, one of the producers gleefully reminded me on Twitter of it.
Wait.
Here's the one that you were supposed to be in tonight.
So hopefully watch an episode of Marin that you're not cut out of. That's what you're saying.
I have a CD coming out, and it's not coming out yet, but it will be coming out in the next few months. It's called Hence the Humor,
Great.
which is my first CD.
Oh, really?
And I say it's available on vinyl for those people who don't want to listen to it.
Is it? Are you seriously making a vinyl version
No.
of it? No. Oh, okay.
Although I have vinyl seat covers, 'cause I like the frequency range.
Well, my shameless plugs are, if anybody's in Colorado Springs that listens to this show, I will be at the Great Loonies Comedy Club down there the last weekend of June, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Are you gonna get kicked out again?
From
Wasn't
Loon?
the last time you went
What?
to Colorado Springs, didn't you get kicked out?
No.
somewhere? No.
Was
Was that a long time ago?
That was Pueblo, Colorado.
Oh, Pueblo.
And I needed a police escort
okay.
to leave the town. But
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
No, the Colorado Springs, they love me down
He's
there.
volatile.
Yeah.
Is that really true?
Oh, yeah. Andy
You're a
Kid-
tough guy?
I'm not a tough guy. I just
thought
got a big mouth.
You were very menacing when you picked me up.
Yeah.
Very menacing.
Yeah, I said, get the fuck in the car.
yeah, get in here.
What the hell's your problem?
What's wrong, Hollywood? You called me Hollywood.
I
Called me
did-
Hollywood the whole trip
I
over.
called you Hollywood once.
Yes, yeah.
But I call everybody from LA Hollywood because I got a chip on my shoulder.
Now, were you drinking when this happened?
No, I was just doing a set, and it's a very long story.
Oh, but you got like
I'll
in trouble. Oh, with someone with.
I'll
Okay.
tell you off, Mike. It's already been written about many times. It's an awful thing.
Sorry, I brought up a bad topic.
No, I mean, that's not going to happen in Colorado Springs at Looney's. So come on down to the show.
That's what I meant to say.
I'll be opening up for Denver legend Troy Baxley.
Oh,
So
I love Troy Baxley.
I love him as well, and if you haven't seen him, definitely gotta go see him. So
I'm
that's what I'll
personal
be doing.
friends with him.
Really? Me
From
too.
the old days, from the 80s.
He sat in the exact same seat that you sat in when we came over here many times.
How about Roger Rittenhouse? Is he around?
He lives in L.A. now.
I know he lived in LA. I thought he moved back. I love him.
Yeah, he was back very briefly last year, and I got to hang out with him. And he was one of the nicest dudes around. But that's my plug for Roger Rittenhouse. So
Yeah.
for the 4 people out there
I love it.
that are super Denver comedy nerds like myself.
Yeah.
There you go. And then also, if you're a Denver comedy nerd, check out a Sexpot show sometime.
Well, yeah, our sponsor, Sexy Pizza. They're awesome.
Yeah.
They're great. Go to sexypizzaonline.com.
Andy Kindler was brought in to headline at the Oriental by Sexy Pizza and Sexpot Comedy. So
I haven't had. I thought I would be here. There would be at least a sexy pizza.
We got pizza coupons for you that you can go get your own pizza.
Actually, we've
Really
run out. Actually,
the worst.
Oh,
we're out of them.
That is the
actually.
worst. First of all, the worst party gift, and now you're out of
You
it.
get a pen. There's a nice pen.
You get a Sexy Pizza pen. We got some stickers. I don't know.
He's shaking his head.
terrible.
It's
I'm
not
sorry.
enough. It's not good.
You should have had sexy pizza here.
It's true. It's true.
This could have been a different 2 hours of us munching on, with the sound of people chewing.
Yes.
That's great.
love
That's great
that.
audio.
People love it.
Well, I've loved this. This is so great.
I
fun,
love
yeah.
both of you. Let's not stop. We're going all night long.
All
We're
right.
going
With
for
the
the
love.
record. Now let me tell you about the Grateful Dead that you don't know about. Let me
Oh,
tell you
that was just
exactly.
the first half, huh?
Well, first, in 1967, Phil Lesh used, at the top string was 13.13 gauge. But then he switched to... the difference between the Gibson hollow bodies and the...
We'll get you on guitars and
Wait, we're gonna start
something
as
funny. Say something funny. What's the word that starts with G that's funny?
gonad.
There you go.
Gazebo.
Guitars and gonad.
Gazebo. There we go.
Guitars and keys. We'll start that next podcast right after this.
I bet
we
you
go.
guys have trouble ending every show because you're having so
No,
much
just
damn
with
fun.
you.
So much damn
so
fun.
much goddamn fun.
Why don't you say, like they say, it's WHAA in Minneapolis. It's
Because we're not legit. We're
Oh,
DIY.
okay.
I could do that. I still know how to do bumpers and reeds and stuff like that.
Bumpers and reeds
You
and
wanna get-
stings. Do a sting for me.
A
You just did it. You just did it.
And,
I don't need to
and
do
with a
anything.
crazy sound effect.
Yeah.
So that I had a great time here.
I had a great time.
Thanks for
having
everything.
you here. So thank you so
Give me
much.
the funny sound effect.
Driving that train, pound cocaine. Casey Jones, you better watch your speed. Trouble ahead, trouble behind. had.